And we're live. Let me just check this is all functioning correctly. Oops, let me move that out the way. Yep, I think we're good. Kerry's going to bring me a coffee in a minute. Welcome everyone. Just thought I'd pop in and have a live Q&A. I'll explain why we're not doing behind the photo show in a couple of minutes. Let me check that's also on silent. It is now. Wanted to pop in for a live Q&A with you all today. I'll explain shortly why Aaron and myself just aren't doing the show today. It's been a bit quiet, to be honest. There's not much news at all, so we've decided to hold out till next week and just do a live Q&A this week, just so that we're keeping a presence here. So let me just see who's popping in. Why isn't that clicking over? There we go. All right, so we've got Casper is here. Nice shot, thank you. He's talking about the one I posted on the icon. I'll show some images shortly from the USA. I'll go through them with you. Langston's here as well. MJ's here. Ryan's saying, hey, fellas. Ben's saying, mate. Michael, Bam in the house. G'day, Michael. Good to see you in here. Been enjoying your wedding images you've been posting in the photography, videography school. The Panda's here as well. How are you, Panda? Mike's here. Is it Wellesley? Hi from Barbados. Mike is here also. Kent Wedding Photography Film said good evening from London. Pre-work view for a short time. Like said, David said, hello David, hope you're doing well. Yes, well my test has come back negative, so I am fine. I've still got a bit of that cough though, but like I've said to you, I get it a couple of times a year. I don't know what it is. It's just a dry cough that I get. But anyway, I have been tested negative. Carl says, hello David and friends. The Panda said, damn coronavirus. Yeah, I know, exactly. Barry said, good morning, David. Nivak said, good morning. Victor says, hello to all. David said, hi, David and friends. Let me just move this over so I'm not looking around, actually. Might be a good idea. Then it'll look like I'm looking straight at you today. Let me just move that over there. And then let me drag this out. Whoopsie daisy. Then it'll look more like I'm looking at you. I think I've got to refresh it. Yes, I do. All right, so let's have a look. David said, hello, David and friends. David also said, nice pic of the USA. I know. Thank you so much, David. I'm very happy with how they've turned out. I'll talk about that in a minute, actually. Shiku says, hello, everyone. Stay safe. Trev said, hello, Sensei, I think it is. Altric said, g'day, or hi, is here. Anthony, g'day, bloke. G'day, bloke. It's meant to be g'day, mate, Anthony. The Panda says, I'm negative as well. Jeff said, yo, David. David said, great, Dave, glad to hear that. Yeah, it was good news too. Although in one way I would have liked to have, I shouldn't say I'd like to have had it, but in one way I was hoping I had a minor case of it and then I'd be basically immune, but I haven't got it. So I could catch it later on, I suppose. Codgel, cold and flu, original formula is your best friend, David. David said, so glad you are negative. You are usually such a positive guy. Thank you so much, David. Why did it do that? Just jumped all over the place. Are we at 1:45 yet? Yes, we are. All right, so let me just bring up this intro. I always play this. And then we'll start, and I'll tell you the reason why Aaron and myself aren't doing this show today, so bear with me for a second.
If you're looking for some crazy, I'll tell you everybody's standing in a line for the water slide. You can come on over, we can take the roller coaster. And you know everybody's looking for a ride in the water slide.
Well, how was that entrance? Woohoo! Just look at myself over there. I love it. Welcome, everyone. Good to see you here. Normally, this is the Behind the Photo show. I wanted to explain why we're not doing it today. Look, the reason was I was having discussions with Aaron this morning, and because of the virus that's going on at the moment, there was just so little news stories and everything to talk about. So we just basically decided at the end we'd miss the show this week and obviously come up with something next week, hopefully, if there's some more topical things to talk about. But I thought I'd still pop anyway and have a Q&A with you guys, just have a chat. I'm not sure whether Aaron will pop in live. He's also putting together a video on his YouTube channel. But hopefully we will be back again next week. The intention is to keep the show going all year, but sometimes, like for what's happened, there just wasn't enough really to talk about this week for current topics and things like that. We may sort of spread out a little bit more in the coming episodes and talk more about techniques and things like that. But the show is still developing, so we're still intending to do it. It's just that today I looked at a whole stack of news stories this morning and I just thought, oh, there's so little in news at the moment that we could talk about. So that's the reason why we're not doing the Behind the Photo show. But hopefully it'll be back and everything next week. But I thought it'd be a great excuse anyway to have a Q&A with you guys today. Talk about, I'll show you some images that I've just grabbed a couple of selections from the USA. We can talk about that. And then you might have some questions you want to ask about what I used. What was my favourite lenses that I used during the USA? What did I think of different things? And we can talk about all that sort of stuff. So let's start anyway with, I'm going to open up some of these, but I need to make sure we can see them. So let me grab a page that we can see, and then I'll open up some images that we can look at together. Let me just check to see how big these have to be. Oh, it's got to go way bigger. Now, this is a really interesting one because I wanted to show this image. Let me just see if I can open something up. Desk scribble, because I'll do some writing with you guys. I think Kerry's coming in. You'll be able to say hello to Kerry. Hang on, let me just bring her in and you can say hi. Hello, beautiful.
Hello.
How are you going? Look at what Kerry, she's bringing me in a coffee. Oh, how good is this woman? Seriously. Let's come over. Say hello.
An extra bit in the pot.
I've got an extra bit in the pot too. So how you going? Sit down there for a second.
Fine. Day 13. We've been
we're
home.
both in lockdown at the moment, only because of our trip to the USA. You had to have a 14-day lockdown. So we're both stuck basically home until Thursday, aren't we?
Tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow actually. Then we can go out. Well,
Not
we can go
really.
out. Because like everyone else in the world at the moment, we're both on lockdown, or the whole country sort of is now. Kerry's still working. Like Kerry will go back to work on Monday.
I think.
Yeah.
At the moment.
Well, that's unless
things change.
Things change, yeah, because you're in retail, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Kerry may not go back on Monday. It just depends. I'm just seeing if anyone is asking anything. Let me just go back. So a few people are saying hello. Altrix saying hello, Kerry.
Hi.
Michelle is also saying hello, Kerry and David. 95 saying hey now. 95 is the guy that gave me that massive cuddle in.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the guy that gave me that massive cuddle in Vegas, so he knows all about it and tried to get me to drink that, what was it, the drop that you put inside your...
Jaeger bomb.
A Jaeger bomb, is it? Yeah, he tried to get me to do that, so... What's Trev Pick says, well, there's a good chance our kids are out of school for the year. Well, you may be here too, we just don't know. Michael said the new name is the Kerry and David Show.
I can't sit here and talk for hours like he can.
No, I said Kerry wouldn't be too happy about doing that. She's the real muscle of the business. She is Panda. Kerry does all of the business side for me. I don't touch it, do I?
No.
Kerry does all the accounting stuff, all of my paperwork, all of that sort of stuff. So Kerry does everything in that regard. So I just do the shooting really. But then again, Kerry does some beautiful images. In fact, she took this one. Let me just open up that one there. She took this one, if we look at it there, she took that one of me pointing up, doing a shot that I'll talk about shortly. But she also took some amazing ones in the USA as well. In fact, did I download it? I don't know if I did yet. Now, there's others that I might show you some other time too that Kerry did too. So, yeah, I just thought that I'd have her in while she's here. She's reluctant to pop in. Is there any go-go juice in the coffee?
No, strictly coffee.
This is Aaron's mug, by the way. See, JP Sonic said, "Happy wife, happy life, Kerry."
Yep.
You just,
Yep.
Panda says you make a good team. Well, you can go, honey.
Yeah, we do. Are you getting rid of me now?
Yeah.
Bye.
So, let me just see if I can bring this other one back, this other image. Now that she's brought me out this lovely thing with this lovely mug here. Now, I want to just talk to you about a couple of things with these images because this was one image that I had. Now, why is that? Oh, there we go. I can even make this a fraction bigger, I think. Because I wanted to talk to you about something here that's really interesting. You can see me in the corner. You'll have to ignore that. With this image. And I love to add what they call something about depth. And it's interesting because Kerry was talking to me the other day about this. I don't know if I can go full screen. Let me try. Oh, it does fit in. Oops. Kerry was talking to me the other day about this. And I wanted to talk about depth. I think I can't do it because I want to draw on it. And that's the thing I wanted to show here was how can you add depth to say a landscaped image? Because the problem is if you're looking at something like this image here, you've got no idea about how big this is. Now, I suppose you could tell because if you look closely over here, let me just come back to this and I'll draw something on there. Where are we? If you look here, you can tell that there's some buildings around there. So that's one way that you can add depth to this. And also, if you look closely, there is a road that circles around this section here as well. So that is giving you some idea about depth. But the main reason was I saw this girl who was doing a fashion photo shoot or something in the left-hand side here. So I saw this happening on the left-hand side here. And I thought that I wanted to put her in to show the depth, and it gives you a sort of better idea about perspective because you've got something in this foreground as well as something in the background. And there's a couple of other images I'll show you in a minute that sort of show this as well. But because I'm a portrait photographer, remember I'm not a landscape photographer, guys, at all. I know most of you are saying that the work is beautiful, but I mean, I don't classify myself... I'm just having a bit of coffee. I don't classify myself as a landscape photographer at all, but so I'm always looking at aspects where I can show something like this happening, where there's people or something in the foreground and background, whereas Kerry would always try and shoot this without anyone in there. So, yeah, you know, it's just an interesting scenario. But I love this pic for a couple of reasons, was that you've got the sun coming behind this big hill here or mountain or whatever you want to call them. I can't remember the name of them. But the sun is beaming through and it's hitting that back bit there. You can also see that it's hitting this bit over in this corner here. And there's little rims happening over the top through here as well. So even though this is sort of all in shadow, I think that's what makes the image. I think it makes it because of the girl being in the foreground here and also the sun hitting all these areas at the back. There as well. But let me just open up a couple of others and I'll show you a couple of others in this discussion. And I will be opening up to Q&A as well. But I just thought I'd show you a couple of these. There's another thing that I always like doing as well, which I can show you on this one too. Let me come back to here. Again, this is showing the same thing. You can see here that you've got no idea about perspective again until you start to see that is that road. You've got people that are at the front there and also cars that are sitting in the background here. That to me is, I love doing this sort of thing because it shows perspective and size. If I didn't show that, like there's buildings down there actually, there was a marathon going on at the time, and there's cars, well, they're not buildings, but I think there were tents or something put up. So there's stuff all through here that's sort of showing the size and the scale of what's going on with this. And even though this is flat lighting, I love the contrast in the sky, things like that. But, you know, these are the things that I do try and look out for. Let me just see if I can open up another image. Was that one? Yeah, that was that one that I showed. This is another perfect one that Kerry took this one. I adore this image that she actually grabbed. I said basically try and take one of me using the camera. I mean, I might use this. Remember, I'm reviewing the gear that I took with me, so I may use this at a later date. But I just adore this because I love the light that's hitting these hills with also the clouds and everything else that's going on. There are buildings in this foreground here that you can tell that gives you the size of how big this is. You know, but I love this image. I really do love it. And it wasn't a pose. I was actually taking an image as I was doing it. But the video that I've just posted shows this location. I'm talking with this location right behind me. And, you know, I really do love this image. So that's that one. Let's have a look at another one. This was another one where I'm sort of saying capture. Oh, I noticed there's a dirt spot up there. I just noticed that up there. This one I just love because Jerry actually posted a photo of this behind the scenes in the photography videography school, because he posted something where he showed me taking this shot. He said I photobombed his shot. But I was after a wave crashing, and that's what I think makes this a little bit different. Is that wave that's crashing, let me open up this desk scribble, is this wave that's sort of crashing all on this foreground over here, and you can even see there's little bits over there as well. The sun was setting, but I love this. So it's had very little editing done, to be honest. None of these really have had a lot of work done to them at all. Let me just quit that one. Let me quit that one. Let me quit that one. Let me open up another one.
Interesting question.
Shush, that was Siri. This one I love because I just think it's a little bit different. Let me just show this to you. Even though this is black and white, I did quite like this in colour as well, but I think this looks really quite striking in colour. In black and white. I love the cloud formations that's sort of coming here. I love the little, you know, the sailboats that are here and here that gives this a little bit of perspective about or size scale, the boat that's in the foreground there, and obviously the whole bridge that you can see the beautiful shape of the bridge that's coming over. I do like doing black and white work. I mean, like I said, I love these. Like I can't stress enough that I'm not a landscape photographer, but you know, I'm quite proud of what I've done in this regard. Let me open up another one for you. This was the one, like I said, that Kerry took of me shooting up. I love this shot. I love the way that I'm looking through the viewfinder and stuff like that. This is the tight spaces that you're dealing with going through the Antelope Canyon. And, you know, this was typical of the type of shot that I'd be getting with that look as well. What I tried to do on these was I didn't want to lose the sky. I wanted to try and keep that exposure. And this is one area where the dynamic range of the Sony cameras is so good. I love how you can sort of expose for the highlights like that and then bring all these areas back in later on. So I love that aspect of it. And there'll certainly will be a few images that I will get, you know, printed later on. So let me quit that one. This one was interesting because I wanted to test using the Sony a7R IV. And I wanted to do a run and gun type shot. I was just interested to see how it would perform compared to my A9. Now, this one is not, it's obviously a senior shoot that was being done, but the typical portrait side of me immediately saw what was going on, and I walked past and I thought I'm going to try and use the A7R IV and grab a snapshot on the run. Now, I didn't even really have enough time to even check the settings, but the settings were 1/30th of a second. So there was definitely going to be a little bit of movement involved because of the way that I shot this. And you can sort of see that if you look at the dress and stuff, like it's not totally sharp through here, and even the background is slightly moving. But this is the typical type of thing that I would do with my A9 all the time, and you can get away with it with the A9 particularly. But I'm quite happy with how this came out, considering how this was just me walking past immediately, just grabbing the camera down at my waist. There was another photographer taking their shot, so it's not my shot. I was just walking past and thought I'd just take a quick photo from the hip, and I grabbed this shot as it was there, because like I said, it's always the photographer side of me, the portrait photographer side of me sees these things and immediately want to grab something. Jerry and everyone else were all shooting over here, getting shots of this big building that were over the side through here. I saw this girl doing the shoot over here and I immediately wanted to grab a shot of it. May not be the right thing to do because it was someone else's work, but I'm not going to post this as my work. I just wanted to do it to see how the A7R4 would handle it, and it did pretty well. I definitely think the A9 would have given a better result, but you know, for considering to what it was, I think it was nice. This is in San Francisco. It was really beautiful location. Let me check if there's any others on here. This one. This is another one where I like to add depth, and I always tend to look for images where I can have something in that foreground, and this is the perfect example. Jerry said this to me. He said, you're always looking for something to put into the foreground of something, and I do, because I love the depth that it gives between that tree and this background. That's what I'm always trying to search for, and if you look at the video that I've posted, you'll notice that I do that, you know, quite a lot. But there's stacks and stacks of these that you'll see. I think I showed all of them now. Yes, I did. Anyway, all the ones that I'm going to show. So there is stacks of times that I'll always look at that thing for sort of foreground and background, and that's something that you may want to think about if you're doing landscape. Like I said, I'm no expert in this at all, but particularly, like I said, in landscape type shooting. But have a look at the video anyway. I'd love you to have a look at it. I'm really happy and proud of what I've photographed. It basically gives some images from the whole trip. I will be posting some other things and videos later on, but I just wanted to show that. So let's open up Q&A. Excuse me. I am still coughing. If anyone comes in late, I have been cleared of the virus, so it's just this dry cough that I get. So let me come back to this. Let me pour a bit more coffee. Let's go back to where people ask questions. Lisa, love the intro. Thanks so much, Lee. Sheltering in place in New York City. Yep, we all are. BJ said, hey, David, quick question, if it's all right. In Australia, when you shoot 50p, do you set your timeline as 24 or 25? 25. I go for. That you can get a little bit of skipping and stuff and stepping if you're not careful if you do 24 or 25. I stick it on 25 and YouTube seems to handle that fine. Mike says we're in lockdown 2 in Boulder. You could have talked about the effect of your virus on professional photographers. Well, we were going to talk about that, but we've discussed that in the last 2 lives, and we thought we wanted to give that a bit of a break. So we didn't want to sort of do that for this week. Panda says, I'd like that pink light purple backlight. It's speaking to me. I haven't put on my the black hole. Hang on, I need to turn it on. Here we go. Woohoo! 95, as you're going through your R4 images, are you appreciating them more? Yeah, look, I'm going to talk about the R4 in a review coming up soon. Amazing camera. It really is an amazing camera. There's certain things about it that I've discussed with you all before that I just don't think I need that file size. Look, if I was going to shoot landscape like what I did, I suppose it's definitely, I would like it. I think the issue for me with the A7R4 is if they put a mini RAW in the A7R4, it would almost be the perfect camera. There are a couple of other implications that I don't want to sort of go about because I'm going to review it, but there are some other things too that the noise is definitely about a stop worse than the A7 III and the A9. And I've noticed that in a number of images where I've had to use noise reduction. So the noise is an issue if you want to keep things really clean without having to resort to noise reduction in software. Now remember, the issue is if you use noise reduction in software, it affects detail. So that's something that you've also got to consider as well. But it's very, very hard to fault. The only thing, like I said, the only thing I could really fault it is the file size for me is too large for the way that I shoot because I'm generally doing portraits. I generally don't crop in camera. I usually crop, I don't crop later. I crop in camera. So I usually shoot it as I want it. And that's the way that I mostly shoot. So the megapixels is not such a big deal for me. But definitely if you're a landscape photographer and you do cropping, it's amazing. The noise is a little bit of an issue. It's definitely not as clean as what my A9 and A7 III is. The body is great. The buttons are fantastic. But stay tuned for the review. It's certainly an amazing camera. That's really all I can say to you at this stage. Is it for me? Probably not. But it certainly will be for a lot of you that are out there. That's for sure. Everyone was just saying hello to Kerry there. What kind of camera is that? Which one are you talking about? This one? That's the A9 if you're talking about that one. I'm not sure if that's what you were talking about. The new name is the Kerry and David Show. I love it. Happy life, happy wife. Yeah, I know. It's how about happy wife, happy life. Everyone's saying we do make a good team here. Kerry's amazing. I love Kerry to death. She's amazing. And we've been together since Kerry was 15. You look like a young man in that photo. Oh, thanks, Trev. I love that photo, actually. With your landscape shots, do you expose for the sky and bring up the shadows in post? No, I used a filter system. I'll just grab it just so I can show you. I've put it down somewhere. I really wanted to show you. Just talk amongst yourselves just for a second. I've got to find it. Okay, I found it. So, I was using this system, so let me just show you what it is. I've just got to remember the name of this. Oh, yeah, there you go. It's Wine Country. So, it's a Wine Country filter system. I'm going to review this. Let me just see if I can hide my face. So, it's a Wine Country filter system. This part that's inside here, if you rotate it, this is a circular polarizer that's through here. So that's what that's for. And so you could balance, get your beautiful skies and things like that. So that's the first part to this. This comes with a whole stack of different filter systems that you can put on. So this was the 67mm because I was mostly using it with the Tamron 17 to 28 and the 28 to 75 and also my 24 G Master, which is that one. So this was the system that I use, and all that does is it simply screws in. Let me just see if I can show you. you just screw it in to your camera. It's a bit awkward in this position because normally you take it off. I'm just trying to see if I can get it to show you how it works. No, I can't show you. But all you do is you literally just screw that in onto your camera up the front. So this is quite good because you can, use this with different systems and things like that. And then all you do is, once that's in, let me just push this down. Once that's in, I had these, which came with these little filters that you put in. So I was using these type of filters that you put in. It's the first time that I've ever used this type of system before. So, and I loved it. I really did enjoy using it. But the thing that I loved using the most was the graduated filters. They come in different strengths, obviously. I'm just trying to find where the graduated ones are. They're here somewhere. There. So this is the results that I use. Now you can do this, I'm not going to lie, you can do this in camera, or sorry, not in camera, but you can do it in your post later on by using the graduated filter in Lightroom. But it was amazing to see the difference of when I pushed this in, how I could then adjust the sky as against the foreground in camera. And it's the first time that I've ever used something like this, and I really did enjoy it. But boy, they're not cheap. This is around $1,000, I believe, this whole system. But they're not cheap. But I do love getting it right in camera, and this is the first time I've used this type of thing instead of just using a variable ND or an ND. But it made some great images when I did Yosemite because it gave me that ability to, let me just see if I can open up Lightroom. It gave me the ability to expose for the sky and also the foreground in the one shot, or one exposure. Let me just see if I can open something up. I've just got to find where those were. So let me find Yosemite, and then I'll give you a look. Now I wanted to see the difference basically with how much blue you could get out. So let me switch over to here. Let me see if I can bring this over. So this is a perfect example with how this works. If you look here, I didn't use it. So I didn't use that there at all. Then I put down through here where you can see the difference in the sky immediately, what happens there, how much it will darken off once you've done that. And it was great, and you could see it actually in the viewfinder as well, that when you push that down, you were getting different looks depending on how much you moved around. Then you could also turn around on that filter. You could turn around the polarizing filter as well to get your nice skies. So it gave you that ability to, get your foreground and background colors. And that was what was so good about it. This was just one of the edited shots that I did, that you can see the moon up in the sky there. And everything else. So I didn't have to use, you can use gradient filters if you want to. I can come into here and then drag down. But, it was nice this time to, I'll just show you how that works. But, you can do that like that or whatever you wanted to do. But it was nice to get it right in camera. And I really did enjoy using it. The other thing was too, I didn't have any trouble getting focus because I could take the filter out. They just drop in the front. Like I said, I'll do a review of it. They'll drop in the front, and then you could just take them straight out again. And I loved it. I thought the system was absolutely fantastic. So that's what that was all about. Let me just quit that and come back to here. So that's what I used for that, if that answers your question. So I didn't have to really do much editing at all, 0007. It was mostly done in camera. Just rescheduled another wedding. That's fantastic, 95. All mine have stopped completely for 6 months. Jeff said, tell us about the new lens you bought. I didn't buy a new lens. Which one are you talking about, Jeff? I had some with me. when I went to the US, like I had the Tamron 17-28. Tamron lent me the 20mm that I've used, and I will show you some images of that in the coming days. I've got a review of that to do. The lenses I used on the trip, though, I took a few. I took the 24, so I got the 24 GM, and I took the Sony 135. They were the only two Sony lenses that I took on the trip. The other lenses that I took were the Tamron 28-75, the 17-28, and the Tamron 20mm. So, excuse me, so they were the only lenses that I took. Dave said, Kerry, 100. Tuned in to hear camera talk, but instead I see two lovebirds. I love it. Mike said, you, David, is real Aussie. He always in shorts. I am when I was over there. I love shorts. I really do love shorts, that's for sure. Jim said, lips come together. I love it. Bring Kerry back. Campaign just about to start. Ike's here as well. Sorry, David, but I'm having a delicious IPA. Yum. Modelo time. It's too early for me to be having drinks now, especially with that daylight savings has gone. Jim says, you too. I love it. Exercising as we chat. Jim is. Casper's here. I like this one. Altric, hope all is well. You're just about to move, Altric, aren't you? Is that still on, or is it being held back now because of the virus? I can see so many ways as a creative photographer to edit this. I'm sure. Look, editing is a great thing. You can do whatever you like with these sort of things. Greetings, coffee dudes. Greetings, hero. Panda says, amazing capture. Thank you so much, Panda. I'll show you. Look, let me show you, though, how good Kerry is. Where are we? Lightroom. I just want to show you because Kerry always says she's not a photographer. All right, so let me just show you this immediately, and you guys are going to say, okay. Because I always say to Kerry, her eye is just beautiful. Rated. So Kerry took, where are we? I'm just going to find the star one. So this was Kerry's image. Let me just go to here. That was Kerry's image. She took this one. And this is why I always laugh when she says, I'm not a photographer. She's been taking all of these. These weren't even edited yet. Like, these are all completely... Oh, this is the filter system, guys. You can see the filter system on the top through here. So that will show you how that works. This is the little dial that you turn around to turn the polarizer around. And then the filter system sits through the front. I don't know whether Kerry... See, Kerry's grabbed all of these. She took all of these. She always does all of my behind-the-scenes type stuff. That gives you an idea there about how the system works on the camera as well. It's a really solid metal type system. It works so good. Let me just come down. Kerry took that one. Again, that's another one that she took. That's why I always laugh when she says, I can't, I'm not a photographer. She took all of these. So she took all of the ones that were I was in the shots, like through here. I'm not sure if I took that or Kerry took that one. I'm trying to claim it because I love it. I love the light coming through here. But I'm not certain which one of us took it, but I'm claiming it. But it probably was Kerry. I don't know. And, she also took that one as well. A lot of the ones that we did earlier on were... Kerry took... This was Kerry's idea, looking at this one. I completely missed it. And this is the funny thing. Like, Kerry has an amazing eye to see things that are going on around her. And she'll often say to me, David, you need to take that. I completely missed this shot because I didn't see the reflection or the puddle there. And once Kerry mentioned it, then everyone that came on this trip with us all went over there and we're starting to shoot. Because she just walked past it and she was doing it with her iPhone actually at the time. And she said, David, you need to do this. And so I grabbed that and I took it straight away. So that was Kerry's shot as well. This was one of that she grabbed when we were doing the workshop with Don. I've got some that I've posted with the flash on there, but Kerry took this while this was going on. So she took that as well. But you know, just to show you the difference too, without flash or with flash, this is completely without flash. And then I've got to edit these. So these are unedited, but you can see that's what happens the second that you start to bring flash in. I've got these couple of images that I'm going to edit in the coming days for Dom as well. I've got to still send him some images from when we did that shot with him. He was great. But that just shows you the difference without using flash as against using flash where you control the ambient light. Obviously, Kerry here had to expose this to allow enough colour to be on Don's face, and also, you know, to basically expose him correctly for the ambient. When I started to add flash in, I can then make the true exposure, and you can see the difference that the flash will make in that scenario, just to show you there. But like I said, I always laugh when she says I'm not a photographer, because she does really beautiful work. Let's just come back to this. Black and white. Yeah, I love those black and white images. I really did. I love them. I really do love them. There was another one which I particularly love inside here as well. I'll keep opening this up, but I'll show you this one that I love as well. Dwayne did a similar shot. He inspired me to take this shot when I saw what Dwayne was doing. Actually, the interesting thing was, I'm not even sure that this was my image. Like, I'm always honest to you guys. I'm not 100% sure. It may have been Kerry that grabbed this. Let me just check what camera it was, and then I'll tell you, because that will tell me. Rated. Rated. Because Kerry was nearly exclusively using the A7 III during the trip. I used the A9 and the A7R4. But down here, when we went to San Francisco, this one. So what was it shot with? No, A7R4, so it is mine. Sorry, Kerry, I claim it. I saw Dwayne, but Kerry was doing something very similar just down the other end, actually. She said, you stole my shot. So it was interesting, and I laughed when she said that, because I actually was looking at what Dwayne was doing. Dwayne did a similar shot, only it was orientated as a portrait. I wanted to do a landscape type shot. So this is it here. Let me just come over. This is the shot here. I love this. Now, if you look at it, did I do it in colour? I don't think I did. No. I wanted the waves coming through, but I also wanted to show this really old rusty chain. And I saw Dwayne did one previously, and he showed me one that he'd done previously. And I saw him doing a similar shot a little bit further down, but as a portrait shot. And he actually got that printed. But I wanted to do one as a landscape shot to show the full length of the bridge there and this chain that was coming down. And I thought this was perfect to match in black and white due to how it looks. So that was a perfect example of what I was looking at. And then I was just always conscious of the light changing, because as it got darker and darker, I wanted to grab the lights that were just starting to show up through the bridge as well, through here. But like I said, I also love this black and white one as well. I do love black and whites. I have a real love of them. And in fact, I don't know which or what I'll get printed in the end. It's going to be interesting to try and work out which one of these images I'm actually going to get printed. So who knows? So Kerry, sorry, I have to claim that one because it wasn't with the A7 III. Panda said, I hear you, David. Oh, where were we? Oh. It's jumped around. Not sure where it's gone. Let me just see if I can find it. Let's thumbs up. Yeah, I'd love it if you could give me a thumbs up, guys. I hear David on the portrait shoot, and I understand. Just bought a used RX1 R2. Cool. Are you happy with it? Gerald's here as well. Said it should arrive Friday. Let us know how you like it. Anyone know of good vids for the RX1 R2? I'm not sure. They'll be on YouTube somewhere, though. There should be some great vids on there. And Michael said, hi, go David, nice work. Thanks, Michael. Happy you cleared of the virus. Yeah, so am I, Gerald. So, yeah, I'm glad that it's all okay now. Corona coffee. There goes my beer, sucked into a black hole. I love it. George said, the American West is so huge and iconic. Was it intimidating trying to capture it? No, not really, George. Like I said, I've got no pressure on myself at all because I'm not a landscape shooter. There's no pressure on me at all. If I had a model that was there, I would have felt more pressure due to the fact that that's my genre. But because I'm not, like I say, because I'm not a landscape shooter, I had no pressure at all. I was just enjoying capturing what was there. It was beautiful, though. It was really beautiful. Yes, I might sell mine too large a file, and that's the problem. See, the problem for me with the A7R4 was I came back and then I had the whole 4 weeks that I'd done and shot mostly with the A7R4, and I wanted to do that to make sure that I could talk about it comfortably. But the file sizes were ridiculous. I mean, I'm talking ridiculous in how much I've had to take up in my hard drives. In fact, I've had to delete stuff to put the stuff on. I can't remember how many terabytes. It was a lot. It was so much. But if that's what you want to do and storage is cheap now, it's fine. It's like I said, it's just not for me. Sony seriously need to do a S version of Small RAW for that camera. If they did that, it would almost be the perfect camera. Check out Topaz Denoise AI and Sharpen AI. Download the free trial. It's the best noise reduction I've seen. Did you use the Osmo Pocket on the USH? No, I never took it, Sam. I didn't take it at all. I've left that here. I took the Osmo Action, though, with me. And I also took the 360 with me as well, the Insta360. Gerald said, as you know, I have the A9 and the A7R4, and for landscapes and more, I love it. Not for all, perfect for me. Loss of detail and noise reduction is minimal. The detail and resolution remain. Panda says, that Mark said, hello everyone. Jim said, hi Mark. Funny Mark, I just got to sleep there talking to each other, I think. Let me keep coming down to see what other people are saying. Mark said, great to hear that you're all clear of the virus. Yep, it certainly is. 0007 said, doesn't that straight graduated line in a filter conflict with the curved areas of the sky like that? No, I didn't seem to think it did. I was pretty happy with how it worked. Remember too that there's that cough again. Remember too that you can then manipulate a little bit if you want to, but it's nice to be able to expose. And I used it on the I also used it when we did Horseshoe Bend as well. With challenging light, it does make a difference sometimes. Remember, you can only go so far with reducing or recovering highlights and shadows and things like that, particularly with the R4 because of the noise that's there. Remember, if you underexpose in the R4 and you bring up the noise, you're going to have really noisy images. So having a filter like that with a graduated filter makes total sense. But I mean, would I buy one? No, because I don't do enough landscape to justify it. But if you're a landscape shooter, definitely. Jim said, I see your Lightroom app had a little title of Lightroom Classic. Which version? It's just the latest version, Jim. The latest one which is downloadable. So I'm always on the latest version. Panda said, so photographers pay close attention to detail and some not so much. Yep, I'm like that. I mean, I look at the image as you see it as a whole on the screen or as it's printed. I'm not a pixel peeper, so for me, the resolution doesn't matter that much to me. Like I said, I shoot for crop in the camera. So, yeah. Gerald says, in the Facebook group, I just posted a video of our trip down Lombard Street, crookedest street in the world. Song I used is Lens Flare 3. I wear shorts 10 months of the year, and I'm in Michigan. Triple says it's not a bad thing at all to be obsessed over detail. No, it's just a personal choice people make. Kerry, that is awesome. Yes, it certainly is. Kerry might take over. She has an eye for it. She certainly does. Please, Kerry, please take over the show one day. Wink, wink. Mark said, love the image Kerry took with Gerald's camera, the one with the wild generator. I know, how good was that? Let me show you that one. Where are we? I've got to see if I can find it. That's the problem. I'll see if I can find it. There it is. So Kerry took this one. Let me just see if I can move this down. She took that out of the window of Jerry's car. I can't remember what lens she used. So she took that through the window. I think it was a 24 to 70. It was a 24 to 70 Sigma lens, wasn't it, Gerald? I think. But she just saw this there, and then she took it straight out the window. Fantastic capture, really pretty. It looks like that Windows desktop screensaver, only with the windmills on it. I think it's really good effort, actually. Let me just move that back out. Great content. Did bring a gimbal and a tripod on your trip? Yes, I did. I used a small gimbal, which was this one. I used this little one. It's the Firetech G6. I used that. The tripod that I used was the, and it's all on loan. The tripod that I had was the Peak Design new tripod that's just been out, and I'll review that shortly, so I'll talk about that soon. But that was great. That tripod's really good, but it's really expensive. It's jumped again. Ugh. Why does it always do that? Down here, down here, down here, down here. Did I read that before? Oh, yeah, Lightroom. I did. I read that before. Great work, great work. Kerry might take over. I love it. Panda says, see, Kerry, I told you she is the muscle of the business. Not only paperwork, but have an eye as an excellent photographer. I know he's talking about someone else. Kerry, you're amazing. She certainly is. It takes terabytes of storage for all that noise. I love it. Do you feel nervous when working with new talent? No, I don't, AJ. Look, I can understand why some people will get nervous, but I've done it for so long now as a professional that I don't get nervous anymore. I mean, I don't get nervous at weddings. I don't get nervous really for anything now. I'm confident enough that no matter what happens, I can get by and work through it. But that takes a lot of experience and practice to be able to do that. If you're just starting out, yes, you will be nervous if you're dealing with new talent and things like that, or if you're working with high-end models. But as you get more experienced and you've had multiple problems that appear over time, I'm now confident that no matter what happens, I'll know how to get around it very, very quickly. And in fact, if I'm having issues, I'm so confident now that the model or the talent that I'm working with would never know because I could hide it. I'm that good at now doing that and then working around the problem and trying to fix it. But if you're starting out, it takes a long time in practice to get over that aspect of it. Sony need to improve functionality when it comes to the touchscreen. They do. Look, there's certain things that Sony definitely have to improve. The screen is definitely one of them. The screen on the back of the Sony cameras now is very poor compared to, say, the Nikon Z-series cameras, the EOS cameras as well, the R cameras, even the Panasonic GH5. And how long's that been out? Even Fuji. So Sony is now well behind if you're talking about the screen at the back. If you're dealing with the EVF, like the A7R, that's as good as that's out there now. That $5.7 million EVF is amazing. But the screen at the back and the touch interface is really archaic now. That's been around really for so long now. It's about time Sony updated that for sure. And I've mentioned that a number of times. EOJ Photography said, glad all is well. Give Kerry my love. Missing hanging out with both of you. Oh, thanks so much, Joe. Miss you too, buddy. I will embarrass you here, David. You and Kerry were just wonderful folks on the great road trip, mates. For almost 3,200 mile road trip, you are just real super folks in real life. Oh, thank you so much, Jerry. You were amazing as well. Thumbs up from New York. I hope you guys are okay over there. I've heard the virus is really hitting you all in New York, so I certainly am thinking about you. We're only starting here in Australia. We're probably lucky in Australia that we're an island and isolated. So we're nowhere near hit as bad as anyone else at this stage. I'm not saying it's going to get to that stage, but we certainly are a lot better off, I believe. Hi team, a bit late to the show. You started to shoot with the crop on the camera and it saves time in post. Yeah, it does. The thing though is, and this is why I would like Sony to bring out an S version, a small RAW version, because the second you use crop in the camera, you lose the full frame look of that camera. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is that you lose the depth of field that the full frame camera gives you. So if you're shooting something up really close and you're shooting for that depth of field, well, the second you use crop mode, that is gone. And so you've no longer got the ability to shoot in full frame. So that's not the answer. That I know that Sony touts that as being the answer, but what you're doing there is no different than cropping in post. And this is what you've got to understand, that if you use Super 35 mode in, say, an A7R4, that is no different than cropping in post later on. So your depth of field doesn't change. That's why I like to shoot for the crop and the depth of field in camera. And to me, that's important. That's why I very rarely crop in post. I might make it more cinematic, like the video that I've just posted yesterday. I've made that 123, whatever it is, I can't remember. It's a cinematic crop, so I've cropped top and bottom to give it a cinematic look. But that's the only cropping I've done. Nearly all the images that you look at in there are basically exactly as I took them in the shot. They're not cropped at all, because I always basically do it in camera for the final result. But we all work differently. I'm not saying what you do is wrong. I'm just saying that we all have a different approach to the way that we work for photography. Because I'm a portrait photographer and an event photographer and dance photographer, I always like to try and crop in camera and also get the correct depth of field in camera. If you're doing Super 35, you're not affecting it. Your depth of field won't change. It'll stay exactly the same as it was in there. It's not like shooting. What I'm trying to say here is, if you're trying to shoot 135 and you're after this amazing depth of field, you can't step right back with an A7R4 and then crop in and get that same look as if you'd cropped it in camera, because the depth of field will be different. Super 35 is exactly the same as if you go into Lightroom and you use the cropping tool. It's exactly the same thing, and that's something that you have to understand with that. All you're doing is punching in. Punching in camera is the same as a crop. It's exactly the same. Hi team, a bit late to show you. Started to shoot with a crop on the camera. It saves a lot of time in post. It does. That especially if you're dealing with big files. Henry, cropping in camera saves you a huge amount. It was one thing it took me ages to get to Kerry, was when we're doing weddings, she would always leave too much room, and I understand why she did that. She was worried about cropping something off. But the issue is, and Kerry didn't understand this side of it, and it took me ages to train her. Sometimes she still does it, but you've got to think of your editing time later on. If you're cropping every single image, that takes ridiculous amounts of time when you're dealing with, say, a wedding or something like that. My whole idea with doing weddings is to eliminate as much time as possible later on for in the edit. And the edit, if you're cropping everything, is a huge amount of time, particularly if you were, say, dealing with an A7R4 where the file sizes are so big. You'd be far better off to crop in camera if you can. One big advantage of seeing the A7R4 over the R3 autofocus is by far better. Yeah, the autofocus is amazing on the A7R4. Let me just show you this. I think I did crop, or did I crop it? let me just come back to Lightroom. I'm not sure if I did. We'll just have a look. Rated. The autofocus is amazing on this camera. Where were we? This was cropped a little bit. Now, see, normally I wouldn't, like I said, normally I wouldn't crop. Let me just see what I've done on this one. I also had to crop this due to the fact that I was going into, well, you can see there, it's minimal cropping that I've done here. You can sort of see here, but plus I wanted to make this 16:9 due to the fact that I was going into video as well. Normally I probably would like to show a fraction more of the bottom of this to show that that was, you know, like the, it is that skate ramp. But this is using the R4. And I tracked multiple shots of this. Let me just turn filters off, and I'll talk about this when I go into the review of this as well. But, you know, if you're looking at this image, it's going to track this guy the whole time. Now, you're dealing with something that is a very high megapixel camera. Look, it's not the A9. It couldn't shoot like my A9, and the buffer did start to run out when I kept going through. But the autofocus was superb through this thing. I mean, it was amazing, you know, that it would grab multiple shots and everything was in focus on those. And it certainly is a step up above. I don't even know if that's in focus, is it? Oh, it is. You know, it certainly is a step way above what I'd used before in the A7R III or the A7R II. The tracking, this was on tracking. So I was using tracking in this scenario to get these images all done, you know, and I think it did a pretty amazing job in tracking. So if you are dealing with autofocus, well, the A7R IV is incredible. If you're dealing with it, I mean, you can even see the guy's face there is incredible. But detail is unbelievable. I mean, you can, you know, like I said, blow into this and enlarge to an incredible amount. Let me just see if this will eventually. See, this takes even my computer a while to render due to the fact that these file sizes are so big. But, you know, that's good in that scenario. But like I said, the interesting scenario is here that I haven't brought everything in. I've deleted some images now where it did miss some. So it did miss some in this scenario. So it certainly wasn't like my A9. I mean, I wouldn't use that A7R IV for that because, like I said, I've cropped in camera and you could see that the cropping was there in camera. I just had to take a fraction off top and bottom. I would use my A9 if I was doing that. I'm always honest with you guys. There's no way I would do that with the A7R IV if I had an A9. I'll be using my A9. The A9 would have grabbed way more images. It would have been 20 frames per second, and there would have been no reason to have such a large file size on that image. So I probably would have used, well, I would have used the A9 if I had that. But having said that, the autofocus is amazing. The tracking on that camera and everything is amazing. It's not an A9, but it's unbelievably good. Joe said, Kerry shot was my A7R IV and Sigma, 2470. Yep. Is the Peak Design tripod out in Australia not available? Well, I'm not sure, Henry, if it's available here yet. It may not be. I've just got it as a review unit. Now that you've done the American West, what's next on the trip list? Well, eventually, who knows with what's going on with the virus now, and like I said, my business has taken a massive hit. The next trip will be to, say, the UK, and it may be parts of Europe, but that's going to be a little bit down the track now. Like I said, particularly seeing, like everyone else, we've had such a massive hit financially. So, you know, it's going to happen, but we just don't know when. So I'd say definitely the UK would be next. The UK is a great option for me because I have free accommodation there in Preston. My auntie lives there. She's my only living relative outside of my family that lives here in Australia. and she's also not well. She had polio, so she's struggling. So I'm just hoping that she doesn't get the virus, because it probably would kill her. So the people in the US, we've all got to take it seriously to think about our elderly relatives and, people we love and even that we don't love. So it's something you've got to consider. So I'd definitely say England will be next, and hopefully then I can pop over to little bits of Europe as well. But I don't know when that will be. Like I said, due to the fact, like everyone else out there at the moment, financially we've taken a hell of a hit. So I don't know if the tripod is here yet. I'm not sure. Sony SE, the A7S III release 2020. Who knows? Look, I'd be surprised if we get anything announced in the coming months, due to the fact of the coronavirus. I just don't think it would be a good business move. They may announce it, but I'm not sure if that will happen. I wouldn't be surprised if nothing is actually released this year at all. Remember, China now is just ramping up production now. And we don't even know if that's true. I mean, who knows what's going on over there? I mean, we just don't know what's going on. Like I said in previous things that we've discussed, though, you've got no one's releasing movies at the moment. No one's releasing any music at the moment, because the fact is that there's no money. And if the market's not out there, you'd be mad to release anything at the moment. And I think camera sales are going to be exactly the same. Who's going to have the money to buy any camera gear at the moment? Or people are going to start thinking about hoarding their money at this stage for safety. And that's the thing that people have to understand at this stage. Retail is going to suffer badly, like everyone else is going to suffer badly. There's that many people that are going on their own employment lines. Weddings have stopped. Shoots have stopped. So all of that has to have an impact further down the line. And it's certainly going to affect me as a business, whereas I would have jumped now if an A7S III would be announced now. There's no way I could afford that now at this stage due to the fact of what's happened. So I'll be looking at waiting way to the end of this year or even early next year, hopefully if things start to pick up again, before I'd be purchasing anything else. It's tough for all of us, guys. You've got to be honest about the situation. Sony screen don't display highlights very well. Yeah, it's just not good. The back screen is not good. I agree, Ryan. They really need to update that screen. The menu on the Blackmagic has me give all other cameras the side eye, exactly, because that's a gorgeous screen, Langston. I know exactly what you are talking about there, because I've used that camera. What else are we on? Gerald said, yes, the tracking and autofocus on the A7R4 is far better. It certainly is, yeah. It's amazing. It really is. It's by far the best apart from the A9. Mark said, the only thing, like I keep saying, the only thing really to make that a perfect camera would be to give us S-RAW. If they gave us that feature so that you could get a smaller version of the RAW, that would be an absolute kill. It's a great camera now, but that would really be amazing. And it's something Sony should seriously think about in these hard times. Mark said, editing the A7R4 images has changed my workflow, where I first cull images now instead of starting to keep keepers. Yeah, and I can understand that, Mark. That is for sure. Why is the A7R3 DxO Mark for IQ higher than because of the noise? That's why. Look, I've looked at all the images now, and like I said, I'll tell you the truth when I do the review. And I've looked at the images, and I can see it's definitely noisier. There's no way of getting out of the fact of physics that the images are definitely noisier. I know because I shoot with my R9 and my A7 III all the time, and I know what type of noise I get at certain ISOs. And I can tell you that as soon as I start to raise the ISO floor level up, like to something like 800 or something like that, the noise is quite substantial. Like it's a difference of, like I said, around about a stop. It doesn't sound much, but it is when you're looking at the images. Yes, you can use noise reduction, but I'd prefer not to in my case. And that's something that you have to consider if you are thinking about getting the R4. The images, but if you're shooting clean images or even high ISO, I know people have posted high ISO images. I'm just talking about what I've seen. That there is a difference in the noise floor of what that camera gives you. Now, if that worries you, it's not the camera for you to get. But if it doesn't worry you, like Gerald loves his camera, I know a few others have posted to say that they love it and the noise doesn't bother them, well, that's fine. And that's only you can make that decision whether that is something that is an issue or not for you. But remember, if you're dealing with shooting landscape, if you're dealing with shooting models where it's lit and things like that, ISO really shouldn't be a problem, so the noise shouldn't be an issue. But if you're talking about just using general photography where you may have to raise the ISO, the A7 III will give you a cleaner image than what the A7R4 is. It's physics. It has to be there. It's about a stop. Now, whether you're happy with using noise reduction software or not is up to you. I mean, I don't really think it's that much of an issue, really, but you've got to understand that there is an issue with noise there. It has to be. It's a bigger file size. I wouldn't say it's a bigger file size. It's a denser chip on the camera. The CMOS, or whatever you wanted to call it, is a denser chip. It's physics. It has to be. That's why the A7S II is so amazing, the A7S, because it's only a 12 megapixel camera. There's a reason why that can shoot almost in pitch blackness. It's due to the fact of that pixel density on that sensor. When Nikon comes out with a 60 megapixel Z8, I'm getting the 45 megapixel Z7 for the cheap. Screw those 60 megapixels. I was used to the A7R III file size. That was around 40 megapixel. Now with the A7R at 60, close enough. Yeah. Imagine the file size of a Phase 1, I know. And like Canon are talking about 100 megapixel image sizes as well. For the average user, though, we don't need those sort of file sizes. That's what I tell you. It depends on what you're shooting. Terry said, "Hey David, love the American trip photos. A really stunning country. How's our A7S going? Who knows? I wouldn't hold your breath for the foreseeable future, though, Terry, on that. The Olympics have now been officially pushed back. I knew that was going to happen, and I just kept laughing when Tokyo or Japan was saying that they weren't going to postpone it, or that if they had to postpone it, they'd cancel it. I thought, yeah, right. They should have told people ages ago." Ike said, "Again, folks, yes, storage is getting cheaper, but only if you're using 5,400 RPM drives. If you want actual usable drives like SSD, at least 7,200 RPM drives, G drive storage is expensive as ever." Yeah, it is cheap, dear, if you're going for that, that's for sure. And if you're using RAID, remember that you've got to then buy 3 or 4 of these drives. And so it all adds up and it does get expensive. Like I use double RAID drives. Even in RAID, I wouldn't use a 5400 in RAID though, Langston, but that you might be happy with that. I'm using 70 to 200 drives in my RAID for video. I just need that speed. MJ said, "It's crazy. I thought the airlines would slow down, but I'm scheduling rides for pilots as usual." Really? That's amazing. We've basically had all flights almost banned here now. Photomix said 128 gigabyte XDD 200. Yeah, that's not cheap. Good time to invest in mutual funds if you can. I thought the Samsung SSDs were pricey. Yeah, that's what I use, is a little Samsung SSD drive, just the smaller ones. I think they're 500 gig ones that I'm using. Phase 1 is actually 150 megapixel. Jim said, "Thumbs up, please." Thank you, Jim. I wish I would have a card failure using these expensive cards. I wish I would have a card failure. Why'd you say that, Ike? Greg said, "I love mine and can still use the A7R3 and A9 at times." Exactly, Greg. Yeah, exactly. Photomix says, I couldn't afford to put XQDs in my camera, even if I did come out with dual card slots, yeah, because they're not cheap. Langston says, "Do you see similar noise issues in these cameras?" Which cameras are you talking about, Langston? I can definitely see the R4 is definitely noisier than the A9 and the A7 III by about a stop. if you want to know sort of stop ratings. If you resize the images from the A7R4 to the 24 and compare them to the A7 III Photo using the same higher ISO, you'll probably get comparable results looking at them one by one. I did try that, and it's similar, but it's still a little bit noisier. But then again, you've got the issue then of your workflow. Resizing images down, doing whatever you've got to do is a huge... What I'm trying to say is, if you don't need the megapixels, don't get that camera. You will know if you need the resolution. If you don't need resolution, like if you're not a landscape shooter, see, Gerald does lots of landscape, other people do that love that camera. If you don't do that, you're better off with an A9 or an A7 III, or something like a Z6 or an EOS R. If you need resolution, you know who you are, and then obviously the A7R4 is the camera for you. But if you don't need it, save the money and go out and buy another camera. Buy an A7 III. There's nothing wrong with the A7 III at the 24 megapixel. Remember, I used to do weddings with a D3S, which was 12 megapixel, and I did big posters with that. So unless you need it, don't buy it. You'll know if you need it or not. The RAWs for the Phase 1 are over 215. Whew, that's big. Hi, Juicy. PhotoMX says, Langston, I do when I record my EVF for my YouTube videos. My last video upload had that exact setup. I was talking about recording to external drives. Scott saying, hello. Juicy said, love my Sony Alpha 3. Doing very well on 1080p with real-time focus, but can't do real-time focus in 4K. Yep. Are you using external monitor? Oh, he's talking to Juicy. Yeah, because you can if you're doing that. PhotoMix says, David, saying I wish you would is a black person's way of saying I dare you. I love it. Langston, see, I wasn't going to explain it. Oreo said, nice cup. I know this is from Aaron. Aaron sent me this cup from the US. It's my Vegas cup. So thank you so much, Aaron. For people that are wondering why we're not together with Aaron today, it was just very, very low on news stories. So I thought I'd just do a Q&A. Due to the virus, I suppose, there really wasn't that much to talk about at this stage. And we didn't want to have another, let's talk about virus issues and things like that on the program. So we'll be back next week. The show, we're intending more with that show to go more into talking about techniques and things away from hardware. So it's going to be more about the photography industry generally. So stay tuned. We should be back next week though. So are there any other questions that you'd like to know? Someone asked me a question today. Which lens did I use the most on my trip through the USA? And the answer to that was the Tamron 28-75 was by far my most used lens. When I went through the canyon, when I went through Antelope Canyon, I used I didn't change the lens actually. I just used the 17-28 Tamron as well, and that was amazing. I love those images that came out from the canyon. So that's what I used in that regard. The 20 Tamron I did use sort of quite a bit too, just because I was testing it. I wanted to see how that worked. The 20mm worked very, very well. I was quite surprised, even on the R4, how well it worked. It certainly was holding up the resolution on that sensor, which is fantastic as well. The only issue with the 20mm was it's slightly noisy in the focus, but it doesn't affect the performance. It's just a little bit noisy if you were doing video. So overall, I suppose my most used lens was like my typical lens that I use often is the 28-75 Tamron lens. So you may find that interesting or not. If a second that I did portraits, though, I did use my 135 and the 24 was then the lenses that I used as soon as I went to portrait shooting with Ike and people like that, and Brooke and Jade that I'll also be posting in workshops coming up soon. So that will give you an idea about that as well. Just seeing if there's any more questions before we call it a day. Are you trying to do Langston's actually asking about, he's answering some questions there, I think that Juicy was having issues with. What do you do to achieve colour accuracy on your Lightroom PC display? Have I got it here? Or have I got it put away? I'm just trying to see if I can find where it is. I calibrate my screen. So I use this little thing. So this is the X-Rite, the i1 display Pro. So I'm using this, and I've got a little. It works with software, and it'll give you a warning every month. I do it every month, and it calibrates itself. It'll tell you you're due for a calibration of each monitor. To sort of explain how I go about doing this as well, I should do a video on this eventually, but I have the monitor that's in front of me is calibrated correctly using this, but the monitor that's on the other side is not calibrated at all. And the reason why I do that is because I like to see how others may potentially see the image that I'm posting, because most people that are outside, in real life, don't calibrate, because the average user wouldn't even know what this is. So I like to leave another screen that's uncalibrated, just to sort of see what happens when I put an image over, and it's quite substantial. Like when the calibrated screen matches to print and everything else, it comes up with a standard, and it's a lot duller, like quite duller compared to a screen that's not calibrated on the other side. Now remember, this can vary on every screen, but I like to just see what it may look like if you're looking at Apple, because this is an Apple screen and it's totally uncalibrated, the one that's on my other side here. So I like that because it sort of gives me two things that I can look at and say I can have a calibrated view, which is a true view of how it's going to print if I'm doing some printing. So when I'm doing all my wedding albums, when I'm doing prints and stuff like that, I'm making sure that I look on that calibrated view, and I'll always edit to that. But I always will sort of just take it over to look at the uncalibrated screen just to see what it looks like, just out of interest. But that's what I use. And I obviously also use a color checker passport, and that's calibrated in Lightroom as well. If I'm doing things that have critical color, like, if I'm dealing with a fashion shoot in the wedding dress, or say a gown had to be a certain color, or a car had to be a certain color, I'll use the color checker passport inside that as well. And in fact, that color checker passport also works inside Final Cut as well. So that's what I'm doing in that regard. So yes, I do always need to calibrate my monitor. Julian says, I love the 28-75. So do I, Julian. I just love that lens. Just wait till you see the 70-180. It's even better. I find that I usually crop in post. So that is why I went out. Yeah, well, I can completely understand that then. If that's the way that you shoot, Socrates, a camera like the A7R4 or the A7R3 or 2 or whatever is amazing, because you've got that resolution that you can do that. And like I said, it depends on how you want to work, because I'm the complete opposite when I'm dealing with video. When I'm dealing with video, I can completely understand the resolution of the A7R4, because that's why I want 4K in video, so that I have that ability to give me multiple crops in camera, in post. So I can definitely understand that side of it. But video for me is different, because I'm a lone sort of gun shooter, and I want the ability to be able to have, looks like they're using two cameras at the same time, where I can be sort of here, and then all of a sudden I can crop in and have it so it enlarges and it looks like there's two cameras going on. So that's why I love shooting in 4K so much. Now imagine 8K, you could crop multiple times in. So that's the advantage of having resolution in video. It's the same in stills, but I just don't use that feature in stills, because I can capture things as I need them by using the zoom or using my feet to move back and forwards. I can't do that in video, just shooting me talking and doing whatever I'm doing. Gerald said, The lens he used the most on the trip, the lens he used most on the trip was the R24 to 70 2.8. The next was the 135 1.8, and the Tamron 17 to 28 2.8, and the Sony 70 to 200 600. Yeah, and that Sigma is an amazing lens. The 24 to 70 is great. Scott said, I chose that lens on my trip for China last year. Are you talking about the Tamron lens, Scott? Sam said, I love my A7R4 for wildlife. It is amazing for that. I can crop forever. Yep. Jim said, link that calibration device for us, please. If you Google, it's the... what's it called? The iDisplay Pro. Let me just see if I can find it for you. So it is this one. If anyone's interested in it, I'll put the link down below if you want it. So let me just move this down. So it's that one. If you want the link, let me just make sure that I update this. If you want the link for this, I'll stick it in the link down below in case if anyone would like to purchase it. I'll put the Amazon link and also the B&H link if anyone wants to purchase that. I'd love you to support me if you can. The X-Rite checker is this one that I use here. This is the one that I use with it like I said, then you can do Lightroom profiles and other things as well. So there's other things there too that you can use. But I use that all the time. So yeah, let me know if you'd like me to put that in the link. I'll stick it in the link down below anyway. I'll leave it over there so I don't forget. I need a cell phone screen calibrator. I use the exact same X-Rite calibrator as well, Jerry said. What else have we got? Gerald also said, I love my A7R4 for wildlife and even birds. Yeah. See, I don't shoot that, so for me it's just not worth it because I just don't shoot wildlife. If you shoot that, I can totally understand it. DJ Z said, thanks for the stream, David. No problem at all. Henry said, David, what chair are you using? Well, yeah, I know this is amazing. I love this chair. It's unbelievable. I mean, I think I got it from Officeworks here in Australia. But so this is the chair. I love it. But I can't remember because there's no name on it. Like it doesn't actually say even underneath I looked. I don't know what the name is of this or whatever, but it moves in all different locations. You can sort of go right back if I want to go right back. The arms go up and down, so I can move them up and down as well. I just love it. I mean, I can stick my feet up and do whatever I want to do, lean back. It's just fantastic. I love it. But I can't remember what it is, but I got it in Officeworks in Australia. But look, that's probably 3 to 4 years ago, so I've had it a long time, but boy, it's still as good as new. How often do you calibrate your screens? I do it once a month. Now you can also use that calibrator to check the ambient light. My studio is controlled, so I have control lighting in here. So I only have to have it calibrate once. But you can leave it on your desk. Because inside the area in here is a light reader that you can stick it on your desk so it will stick wherever you want to leave it, and it will read your ambient light and adjust it in real time. So when you calibrate it, if you say you want to use this with ambient light, if your ambient light changes, it will adjust your screen on the fly. So that's another way you can do it too. I don't do that because I have a controlled lighting in the studio here, so I don't have to worry about that. I mean, you can, if you want to, you can go full out. I mean, you can get systems. I used to do this. I used to have densitometers, and I'd be actually printing out little color swatch bars, measuring them with densitometers, plotting graphs, and then working it all out for print. You can do that if you want to get down and do really advanced printing. Remember, I came from a printing background, so I was in high-end printing and things like that. With I used to teach color theory, so we used to basically run these little test swatches off. We'd have a densitometer that would read your actual swatches. You would get a readout, and then you'd plot graphs on graph paper, and then you could work out how that would be put back into high-end scanners and things like that, and color calibrate screens and all these different things. You can go really heavily if you want to do that. I don't do that now because I'm happy that I'm just close enough now to match my printer the way it works now. This was when we used to do printing in-house and stuff like that. It was all calibrated. But you can go really into really sort of deep detail with it. But I do recommend, if you're printing and sending it out to a printer or doing your own printing, to definitely have your screen calibrated with one of those screen calibrators. So I do it about once a month, Scott, to let you know. You could do it every 2 weeks if you want to. I find once a month is enough for me. Yeah, if you're definitely shooting lots of birds, the A7R4 is incredible. If you're doing that sort of wildlife and things like that. With more people editing an iPad Pro, is there a way to calibrate that screen? I'm not sure. I think I read somewhere that there is. You can calibrate the screen, if I remember correctly. I'm just trying to think. I think there was a way of doing it with the X-Rite, but you have to buy a certain lead to be able to do it from memory. I don't do it, but I think there may be a way that you could do it. I could be wrong. Someone else may be able to let me know. But I think there was a certain cable that you had to buy to get it to work, I think. Turn on your thumb blasters, please. Thanks, Jim. Is that coffee? Yes, it is. It's too early for my coffee, although it's 12 o'clock now. Geez, talk about a complex process. Yeah, it is very complex, Langston, if you're dealing from the print side of things. I used to teach a whole 2-week course in university on colour theory. Just when I say colour theory, it was a 2-week course just on calibrating your screen and monitor, your camera or a scanner to the print. That used to run for 2 weeks full time. Yeah, that was 8 hours a day for 2 weeks. I used to do that. I did that in RMIT for a number of years. That was pretty full on. The colour theory course in itself, well, lasted for ages because it was correcting images and doing all things like that. But the colour theory side of it, yeah, was very, very complex. And that's about it. We're definitely a techie. Yeah, I am a bit of a techie. And that's about it. So is there any last questions before we finish for the day? I'll be back on Friday, definitely for Friday my time. Be Thursday your time for the Sony News and Rumours show. Hopefully there's some rumours and news. If not, I might delay it a day and do it Saturday, but I'll just see what's around there to talk about. I have still got other reviews coming up. I mean, I've got the shoot with Brooke and Jade that I've got to put up yet, that we did in the Valley of Fires near Vegas. I've also got Ike's workshop that I've got to put up yet. And I've got the reviews that I've still got to put up yet as well for things like the tripod and those filters and other things as well. The Tamron lenses that I'm going to still review. So there's stacks as well. Your zipper is down. I don't think so. I've got a tracksuit on, Aaron. What else? That's about it, I think. So that's about it, I think. So we should be back again, like I said, with Aaron next week. Hopefully there'll be more things that we can talk about. I just didn't want to miss a complete day like this. I thought I'd explain why I'm not on with Aaron, although Aaron's just joined us anyway. And that's about all. So I think I might go and have some lunch. Oh, that, yeah. I know it is. Just seeing what they're saying, and that's about it. All right, guys. So I'll see you all soon for the next video. So hope you stay safe. Remember, look after your relatives and people like that, and the elderly and the frail in the environment. Try and stay away from them as much as possible. Apart from that, everyone, I'll see you all in the next video. Catch you guys.